Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, with Hitman 3 releasing very soon, I decided to finally get around to playing the first two games in the World of Assassination trilogy, and here I decided to talk about my experience in doing so. And I've actually never played a Hitman game before this, but I've heard so many great things about this series that have always intrigued me, with the game comprising of like sandbox assassination missions that you're allowed to complete in a multitude of ways. And these style of missions were some of my favorite missions in the Assassin's Creed series, so I was really excited to give Hitman a shot at some point, so I finally got around to experiencing them here. Now this is a game that does encourage multiple playthroughs, but here I decided to only play through each level once before making this video, and here I'll be talking about how I approached each level and also my general thoughts as well. Now I will only be talking about the main campaigns of Hitman's 1 and 2. I do own some of the DLCs, I haven't played them yet. And I feel like for this video, it's just better to streamline the video to only talk about the base versions of these games. Let's start off with talking about the games, starting off with Hitman 1, which does start off with a pretty lengthy tutorial section at the ICA facility that comprises of a very guided assassination mission on a boat that introduces you to a lot of the basic gameplay mechanics. And I'll be honest that the first time I played this, after seeing how intricate the stealth system was, I was a bit worried about progressing in the game, as I have never been a big stealth guy. Well, this is a game that forces you to utilize stealth for most of it. The combat in the game is very wonky and definitely not a secure way of taking out your target, and I learned that right off the bat when the game makes you redo the tutorial section, but giving you the freedom to do whatever you want to complete it. And when doing so, I tried to gun my way through the level initially, and while you can survive for a little while in a shootout, you probably won't be able to complete your objective that way. Especially entering a gunfight before you kill your target is definitely not a successful route. Or at least that's what I thought. What I was able to do here was shoot down a lot of the guards that were guarding the entrance to the boat, and then using the disguise system, I obviously stole one of the guards' outfits and lowered my notoriety level. Now there were obviously a lot of guards that were still searching for me, but I was able to avoid a lot of them as I climbed to the top of the boat, and at that point the target was right there about to get on a helicopter, so I shot him down and proceeded to sneak my way to the exit. So obviously again, like if you're in combat the entire mission, there's no way you're going to survive. I was able to use combat to progress through the level and sneak my way out of combat to be able to complete my objective despite having guards still searching for me. The tutorial is followed up by the final test, another tutorial level, but one that is completely hands-off, and your target is inside of a hangar, and it does provide more experience with the disguise and opportunity systems. And while I did spend most of the time in this mission trying to utilize an opportunity that involved stealing a soldier outfit and obtaining these slides, once I got the soldier outfit, I was already able to enter the area where my target was, and I decided, you know what, screw it. So I walked into the room with the target, used my sans pistol, took out the guard that was guarding him, and then took out the target himself. After I snuck out the window, and I still wasn't detected. Eventually the body was found. There were some guards looking for me, but obviously there was no way for them to know it was me exactly, as again there was no witnesses. Now a minor annoyance I did have here though is that this game doesn't allow you to climb down from things. Like I was on the balcony where like technically a person could jump off that balcony and survive that jump, but due to the game functioning the way it does, it did not allow me to do that. Like I could have easily just dropped off the ledge and went to the exit really easily, but the game doesn't allow you to do that, which I mean does obviously reinforce that this is a stealth game and doesn't give you the easy way out during escapes, but it definitely doesn't make this feel as realistic as it could be. So essentially I had to retrace my steps on the way out, and thankfully with all the other guards freaking out around the area where the body was, I was able to pretty calmly get out of the restricted area and finish the mission that way. But to be honest, at this point in the game, I wasn't fully committed to continuing on the series. It wasn't until the next mission, the first real mission in the game, that I started to fall in love with this game, and that is the showstopper, which is where the game really opens up for the first time. It takes place on a mansion, and you have two targets, and something I loved about this level is how the first target is literally right in front of you as you enter the mansion, and this demonstrates once again that, again, you can technically shoot him down right there, but with the bevy of guards around you, you're more than likely not going to make it that far, and the other target is on the top floor of the building, which is a restricted area, so in your starting outfit, there's no way you can get up there without being detected. But the way I did complete this mission, though, was through an opportunity that this level really seems to point you toward, with you disguising yourself as a fashion model named Helmut Kruger, and through this outfit, you can traverse the entire mansion without detection. But being the idiot I am, I obviously got detected on my way to him, and had to find a way to avoid guards, and this is where I learned a pretty big lesson in this game, and that is hiding in bins or trunks is extremely helpful to get the guards off your back. I mean, once they detect you, as long as they aren't right there as you enter it, they won't ever check the trunk that you're in, and that will be extremely helpful to me later down the road. But this really taught me how the AI worked in this game, and it really made me think of this as more of a puzzle game than the stealth assassination game. You can't really look at these assassinations as real life situations. Again, as I mentioned before, like climbing down the balcony, it's like that's something you could do in real life, but within the context of this game, you can't. And it's the same thing with the AI, where like realistically, you would expect a real person to check their entire surroundings of where they think this target is, but instead, they don't. So from this point moving forward, I really started to analyze each situation based on what I knew about the game's functions, its AI, the detection system, like all these things, instead of looking at it as a very real life scenario. Now this is obviously how you approach every game, but I feel like Hitman was a game that really made me realize that this was doing it when I was doing it. But back to the game itself, I mean, again, while hiding in the trunk, I realized that Helmut had actually walked to the back corner by himself, so I was able to quickly kill him and take his outfit, and while the guards were still looking for me, I was able to continue with the opportunity by getting my makeup done and walking down the runway before heading up to Margulis, one of the targets on the top floor, where the opportunity allowed me to have a one-on-one meeting with her, and I was going to poison her until I realized, you know what, what's the point? We're in a room by ourselves. So I just took her down real quick and then walked back to the bottom floor where Novikov, the other target, was wandering, and it was at this point that I just said screw it. And I have a lot of these moments in Hitman where it's like, if I get to a spot where I know I can possibly dash for it, I'm gonna probably do it. So what I did is essentially I followed him for a little while on the bottom floor until there was a point where an exit wasn't too far in sight, so I took him down and just started to run for it. And obviously while I was getting shot at a billion times, and this did take a few attempts, I was able to finally get to the exit before being killed. And really this is the way I approached a lot of these more standard two-people assassination missions. But as I said, like I had so much fun playing this level, so much more so than the tutorial levels. When I was playing the tutorial levels, I was like, do I really care enough to continue playing this game? But it was really this level, and then obviously the levels that followed it, that really reinforced that I do really enjoy playing this game. But now for the World of Tomorrow, which is the next mission, which was another great mission. I mean, while the targets are both within a mansion, and that's where like most of the actual mission takes place, there is a lot more to the level than just the mansion. I mean, you could explore the entire town outside of it if you wanted to. Now, the actual mission itself involves obviously assassinating two targets, which most of these missions, especially in the first game, involve. However, you also have to destroy a virus that is being developed under the mansion, which added an interesting wrinkle to a standard formula. So when I started the level, I did find an opportunity that allowed me to work as a cook in the kitchen of the mansion, and obviously that leads to a perfect opportunity to poison the target. And while I did poison the food, I never really took advantage of this opportunity beyond this being a way to just get into the mansion. And a lot of that had to do with me finding another opportunity that allowed me to dress up as a golf coach that one of the targets was having an affair with, and able to lure her into an empty room. And here I had a similar strategy to what I did with Helmut, where I tried to kill him, steal his outfit, and then hide from the guards. And it kind of worked. It took a few tries, but I was able to finally do it. I did have to hide in a trunk that was pretty far away from the spot where I actually killed him, but I was able to get away with it. And I did have some trouble trying to sneak back into the guest house, but I was able to do it. Get a one-on-one with DeSantis and take her down from there. Problem was, though, what do I do after this? Because after taking on DeSantis, some guards did come into the room, and I was just having some difficulty getting out of that room without being detected. Like, I wanted to take out the other target, but I just didn't know how that was going to happen. So I decided, you know what, let's say screw it, because now we have the key to the underground and I know where the door is, so why not just go for the virus? We're going to go for the virus and then figure out things from there. So that's what I did. I was able to dash for the door to the underground, and out of sheer luck, it turned out that my other target was in that initial room that I entered. The problem was that he was surrounded by a decent amount of guards, but I decided, you know what, screw it, let's do it. Let's go full Rambo here and try to kill all of them, and I was mind blown that I was able to actually do so. And I was able to survive to the point where I was back incognito, so I was able to kill both of my targets that way, so all I needed to do was to destroy the virus. And while my outfit did give me some leverage, it wasn't really enough to get all the way to the room where the virus was. So again, this was another situation where I pretty much just had to run through. And eventually I did get to the room where the virus was, just I had no clue what I was doing there. And obviously I got killed a few times. I had to try it over and over again, but eventually I was able to destroy the virus after just randomly interacting with things, hoping that it was working out. And luckily for me, they placed a plane right outside the lab, so that made for a pretty easy escape, though I definitely had to gun down some guards along the way. I mean, the amount of luck that had to go my way for me to complete this mission the way I did is definitely one of my most memorable experiences while playing this game. Now for the next mission, a Gilded Cage, which I found to be one of the weakest missions in the series. This is another mission with 2 targets, but I just found the level design to be pretty dull here, and the 2 targets were so dispersed around the world that felt like anything you did with one target didn't even affect what you would do with the other target. I mean, the harder target to get to is a military leader that had a base inside an abandoned school, so obviously you had to find one of his soldiers, take their outfits, and I was able to pretty easily get to the top floor of the school where he was located. The problem was how to take him out without instantly being killed by guards, and after what felt like 1 billion attempts, I learned to really just follow him downstairs, because he goes downstairs to start interrogation. So that leaves him with only one other guard in the room. Now I tried shooting him down, but that would also get me detected. So I decided to do something that I never did ever again. I don't know why I did. I just probably never thought about it. But I did use a remote explosive. So I just threw it in the room. And to be honest, like, the aiming isn't really the greatest in this game, so wasn't entirely sure it was going to work. But then it did. He was killed, and I was able to escape pretty easily there. Now the other target was in the Swedish consulate, and to get him, you obviously had to find a way in. I did find an opportunity that allowed me to join a news crew to get inside, and while I could have taken my time and found a way to kill the target stealthily, again, this was another just screw it moment where I snuck up on him, killed him out in the open, and just like in the showstopper, I decided to just run towards the closest exit and was able to still get out that way. Again, it wasn't the most thoughtful approach, no, but it did work. But again, for me though, this mission wasn't nearly as satisfying for me to complete as the previous 2. Now for the 4th mission, Club 27, which is structured pretty similarly to the showstopper, with there being 2 targets that are within one building, this time a hotel instead of a mansion, but there's one target on the bottom floor while the other is on the top floor. But I approached this mission the complete opposite of what I did on the showstopper, where instead, I found the target on the ground first, and I just shot him straight up, like him and his guard. I just took them out really quickly and took his guard disguise and somehow got away with it. I really didn't think I was going to. This was kind of one of those things where I was just like testing it out on the first try, not expecting it to work, but for some reason it did, so I just continued forward from there. The other target, though, was a lot harder to take down. That was because he was at the top of the building. But unlike the showstopper, where there is one disguise that helps you get all the way to the end, in this level, every floor needs a new disguise pretty much to get to the next floor undetected, so I did find it pretty annoying that I kept on needing to find these new disguises to get, but I did eventually find one that got me close enough to the top floor that I just ran up there. I would just line up a headshot on him, get it, and then just dash for the bottom. And many times it just simply didn't work, mainly because I was just trying to run through. Something I realized, I was like, why am I just not killing guards on the way down as well? The guards that are shooting at me, that would probably be pretty helpful. And yeah, on the first try that I did it, where I was like killing some of the guards that I was passing by, it did finally work. And for me, Club 27 is a mission I did enjoy. It reminded me a lot of the showstopper. The showstopper's probably slightly better in my eyes. Mind you, I don't feel like I utilized this level to the best of its ability, where there were a lot of opportunities that involve like trying to pretend like you're a member of his band and stuff, and I think that would have been pretty fun, but really I just ran up and killed him, so whatever. Maybe I'll do it in the future. Now for the 5th mission, Freedom Fighters, which I did find to be a pretty weak level. I feel like this level took away so much of what I loved from the previous levels, with the entirety of the level being a hostile area, meaning that right off the bat, you need to completely avoid guards until you find an outfit that you can walk around in. I also didn't like how this level had 4 targets, which really felt like overkill to me, especially since the level design here is really flat and boring. But starting off the level, I did die a lot instantly while trying to find a guard outfit, but eventually I was able to find one. And the first target is pretty easy to kill. I mean, he literally just walks off into the middle of nowhere with no protection. So he was easy to get. But after him, the other 3 targets are pretty well guarded and on 3 separate points in the map. So this was a point where I decided to go back to my trusty hiding in a trunk strategy. And this really came in handy, where I would literally just rinse and repeat, taking out a target with my silenced pistol and then running back to the trunk, hiding inside, and was able to get away with that. The problem is that after you take out all the targets, I didn't realize that that wasn't the end of the mission. Turns out you also need to infiltrate the tornado shelter, which involves scanning Sean Rose's face, the first target that we took out, in order to reach it. And my first thought here was that I need to go all the way back to that target's body and return to the area with it, which would have been really annoying. But I went back there and his body was gone, so I was a bit confused of what to do. So I decided to just walk around his house, and eventually I did find a 3D printer that allows you to print out a face mask of his face, and that did end up allowing me to finish the mission. But I did find this kind of annoying at the end here. But I mean, something that I should talk about, I guess, is that this end part of the mission does end with a story related scene, and I haven't really talked about the story in this game, and the real reason for it is because the story doesn't matter. It sucks. I never cared about Hitman's narrative throughout the first 2 games. I mean, really, just nothing there mattered to me. Really, the game for me is so much focused around the assassination missions and the gameplay mechanics within that the narrative really is something in the backseat. And really, that's something that I don't even think the developers themselves seem to care about. I mean, like, for me, the narrative was something that I really never paid attention to, and that's from someone that usually pays a lot of attention to video game narratives. I mean, all my video game videos I do on this channel, I talk so much about narrative, but here in Hitman, it really just didn't matter. But let's talk about the final mission in Hitman 1, and that is Situs and Versus, which I personally found to be kind of underwhelming. I did think it was kind of anticlimactic, but I feel like a lot of that had to do with how I approached the level as well. I mean, I really did like the aesthetic of the level, of this high-tech facility, and this was another level that did require mastery of the disguise system, unless you play the game like I did. So this level does have 2 targets, one that is walking around the facility while the other is undergoing surgery. So while they are stuck in one location and not being able to move, that target is also very well guarded. So when you start the level, I was able to get a hold of a guard uniform and start following the target that was wandering around the recreational center. And while I did find an opportunity, I decided to, again, just say screw it and take her out and just see how it would work. And again, somehow I was able to escape without being killed. I mean, I did have to exit the building, walk around the side, and then sneak into the bottom floor and all that stuff, but I mean, it worked. And now I realized that the target, the other target, the one that's undergoing surgery, is literally 1 floor above me. Literally, all I have to do is run up the stairs, try to get into the room, and kill him. And this took me a billion attempts. It did take me a while. I did have to try out a whole bunch of things. I tried running to the locked door and started like shooting at the guards to try to trick the guards inside to opening the door and all that sort of stuff. Like, I did try some things. Eventually, I kind of realized that there was actually a pathway to the side that you could just walk through. That, I mean, like, it was like this back room with a whole bunch of doctors in it, but eventually I just ran through there, ran up to the target, shot him, killed him, ran away, and luckily enough, there is an exit right outside the room that I was able to finish the mission that way. It was a really anticlimactic finish to this game, I felt like. Again, like, obviously that's not the way you're supposed to play the game. I played this game in a very abnormal way, but it did feel very anticlimactic for that final mission in the game to be able to complete it that easily. But it was still really fun. Again, for the most part, I really enjoyed my experience with Hitman 1. I found the sandbox assassinations to be really fun to play through, and while I don't think I played the game in the most satisfying way, having rarely used opportunities, I was pleasantly surprised with Hitman 1, and it is definitely a game that I would like to revisit in the future. But now let's talk about Hitman 2, which for the most part was an improvement upon the first game, but not really a major one. Most of the gameplay mechanics stayed the same. though now there are some minor improvements like environmental stealth. Now though, with Hitman 2, I only own the base version of the game, so that means that the final 2 missions of the main campaign are missions that I wasn't able to play, which I find really dumb that they locked main missions behind an additional paywall, but whatever. Through this video, we'll only be talking about the first 6 missions. So let's start off with Night Call, which is essentially the tutorial mission in the game that teaches you some of the new game mechanics like hiding in grass and taking out surveillance cameras. But for the most part, this is a pretty bland mission. I mean, you approach an empty house in the middle of nowhere looking for intel. Once you get it, the guards show up and there is one target you have to kill, who is a pretty easy target to take down. You just have to wait for a clear shot on her from the balcony. That's pretty easy, and then you can climb out of the building, climb down the balcony, and utilize the tall grass to get back to your boat. They do add in a little bit of a wrinkle where there are some guards blocking it, but again, I used my silenced pistol, took them out pretty easily, and finished the mission. Again, it was pretty standard, not really much of intrigue there, kind of an just bland mission. But we go from that to the next mission, the finish line, which for me is really indicative of the jump between Hitman 1 and 2. I mean, this level is massive, much larger than every level from the first game, maybe outside of a Gilded Cage, but even then, like, the finish line here feels like a real life location. It feels like a living and breathing place, unlike the areas in the first game that always felt very unnatural to me. But in terms of the level itself, this was the first time I killed both of my targets using opportunities. And this is something that I felt like was more streamlined in this game, that it made opportunities feel much easier to execute. So in this level, you have to kill a father-daughter duo, and the daughter is racing on the racetrack. So I had the opportunity that allowed you to sabotage her car at the pit stop, and while it was cool to see the payoff to what was a decent amount of objectives to actually activate this opportunity, I did find it also kind of underwhelming that she just dies in a cutscene. I think it would have been more fun if you could have played a more active part in that. But after this, I had to take down the father, and for him, I traversed the entire map to the other side, where I activated another opportunity that allowed me to dress up as a food vendor and poison the next target, which I was assuming that this poison would have killed him. Instead, it just made him sick. But it did give me the opportunity to get him alone, where he was just like puking into the water, and easily took him down from there. The problem was that there was no real exit in sight, so I literally backtracked all the way back through the map, but was still able to get out pretty cleanly. I never entered combat the entire time in this mission. Next up, we had ThreeHeaded Serpent, which was kind of a strange level in my eyes. I mean, there is a small town that's in the center of the map, but it branches off into 3 separate restricted areas where the 3 targets reside. And it's another one of these situations where it did make the level feel unnatural and just very gamey. But right when I started a level, I did get pretty lucky where one of the targets had left her villa to go to the market. So I literally just walked over there, shot her, and ran away, and somehow I was able to get away with it. And a lot of that has to do, I feel like, with the openness of this map. The fact that this map is, again, like, it's like there's a center town, but there's also these 3 separate branches. So it's like once you enter one of those other branches, you're pretty much safe from guards from the other branch. But after that, I was able to sneak my way into a villa where the other target resided, and I was able to steal a gardener outfit. But I really just couldn't find a good spot to take out my target. And this was another one of those like screw it moments where I just shot him and tried to run away. And while it was difficult to avoid detection, I was able to escape. And that obviously left only one target left, who was inside of a plantation. And I did activate this opportunity that allowed me to cause an explosion with a faulty circuit board. But, I mean, I kind of just gave up on that. And like the other 2 targets, I said, screw it. So while hiding in the bushes, I just shot the target. And again, this is another one that I got into combat on the way out, but due to the level design, it was hard for them to follow me once I left the plantation. And the first exit that I passed through was one that was locked. However, I did kill both of the guards to steal their car keys to unlock it, and that ended up working, and I was able to get out of the level that way. I did have a lot of fun playing this level, though I do feel like the level design in this level makes it way too easy to just straight up kill your target and then run away. But either way, I still had fun with the mission overall. The next mission, Chasing a Ghost, was pretty much a better version of a Gilded Cage from Hitman 1 in my opinion. I mean, it kind of has a similar sort of level design and setting, but I feel like the mission design was a lot stronger here, and I did feel like the overall level felt more alive. I mean, this mission does have 3 targets, but an interesting twist is that one of those targets is someone that we only know the code name of. So you have to break into his hideout, and through that you find out what his face looks like, but not his actual identity, so you still have to walk through the crowds and get close enough to him to detect him. And I did find an opportunity that allowed for a pretty fun assassination here, where you get to impersonate a barber, and eventually the target comes in and you get to kill him pretty easily from there. After killing him, there are still 2 targets, and I was able to get another opportunity to take out Vanya Shah, and that was by impersonating a tailor, and that allowed you to get a one-on-one with her without any detection. And once alone in her room, she was a pretty easy kill as well. And then the final target was a director on the set of a film shoot, and this one was a bit more difficult, and this was largely due to the number of guards that there were, but I was able to climb up most of the building, though I did have a bit of a gunfight with some guards that I found immediately after I climbed up, but after that I was able to steal their outfits and reach the target's location undetected. And this is another one of those screw it moments where I realized from where I was standing there were only 2 people in sight, a guard and then the target. So I decided to just pull out my silenced pistol, shoot the guard, and then shoot the target. And while there were other guards around, they didn't actually see me. So I was able to escape undetected here and exited through a tuk-tuk that was not too far outside. And again, this is another mission I had a lot of fun with. Like, while, again, I don't love how separated these 3 separate missions are within this level, I did have fun with all 3 of the assassinations here, and for me this was a pretty strong level overall. Now for the penultimate mission I'm going to be talking about, and that is Another Life, which takes place in a suburban neighborhood and comprises of 2 targets that are on separate blocks of the neighborhood. But in addition to that, you also have to find clues around the map to progress the main story, but again, like, who cares about the main story of the game? One of the targets is Nolan Cassidy, and he's in the house right in front of you when you start the level. So my first attempt, I did try to just straight up kill him, but I didn't know the level design well enough to really find a way to escape from there. So I did restart and I started to explore a bit. And somehow I ended in the backyard of the other target, Janice, and I decided to just run in there and kill him. And again, this is another one that, like, I did have to try it a few tries, but I eventually got it to work. And by the time you round the corner, like, the guards stopped chasing after you. And it was at that point that I realized, like, well, why don't I just do the same for Cassidy? So I ran back to the house where Cassidy is, took him out with my silenced pistol, and then ran back to the same location that I did with Janice, and it worked. I mean, again, I killed both of those targets pretty easily. The problem is that now I need to get clues, and I did have to return to Cassie's house to get a clue from one of the guards in there. I did do a package delivery opportunity to distract the guy that had a clue in his backyard, so I was able to do that. You had to watch the surveillance tape, so that was something. But overall, I did find this part of the mission kind of boring. I mean, I would have much preferred just a 3rd target over doing a whole bunch of just random tasks that led to these arbitrary clues that lead to narrative ramifications, as it tells 47 where to go next. But it's like, who cares about the narrative in this game? So really, I enjoyed certain elements of this mission, but I did find that to be one of the weaker objectives in Hitman 2 so far. And now for the final mission I'm going to be talking about, and that is the Ark Society, which takes place on a private island. And this is a really interesting level to me from a level design standpoint. I mean, it's definitely felt like the most vertical level in the game so far, and it really does test you on the disguise system as well. Again, it's another one of these where it's like you need a different disguise for almost every floor in the building. Like, it really does feel like a more of a fitting conclusion from a gameplay perspective to this game than the first game's final level, where again, that one I kind of finished it really easily. You didn't really need to use many different game mechanics to really complete it. I mean, technically it tried to make you, but I didn't need to. But here, I really had to think about this level in a completely different way. Though I will say that the way I finished the mission probably is still more anticlimactic than what I would prefer. But this mission does comprise of 2 targets, but also has a 3rd objective of keeping the Constant alive, who is this person being held captive. And for me, this part of the mission was a massive overthought. I just naturally didn't fail the mission, and I never really tried to do anything with it. And like, there's also this optional objective of escorting him out of the level, which is like, why would I do that? I mean, that's so much work. Like, I don't care enough to do that. Plus, also, there was no real incentive to do that either outside of just XP. But for the mission itself, I did enjoy how this level started with this slow walk into the party with a bevy of cult members around you. But once you enter the restricted areas, I did the obvious of stealing a guard outfit, but this level is pretty brutal when it comes to the sky system, with outfits not being too helpful for too long. And once I reached the top of the first building, I was already in a spot where like almost every guard that surrounded me would have detected me. So that's where I started climbing outside of the buildings, as that became the easiest way to navigate the area while avoiding guards. And I did find that climbing out windows felt like a similar mechanic to hiding in trunks, where it made it feel very unlikely that the guards were going to follow you. And eventually I was able to reach the building where the first target was, and I decided to just shoot her down and climb out a window, and I was able to avoid detection that way. But the problem here was that there's just nowhere to really safely go after this, as every guard in the area was looking for me. But there comes one of the luckiest things that happened to me while playing Hitman, and that's the fact that the other target ended up literally walking right underneath me. So this gave me the perfect opportunity to shoot her down, and through that I'd killed both targets. Now I just need to find a way out. And through continuing to walk along building sides, I was able to reach an exit that was just a ladder within the previous building on the bottom floor, which did feel a bit anticlimactic to me. Again, I do feel like the fact that I kind of lucked my way into succeeding here, and then through just climbing on the side of buildings was able to complete the level, that did feel not as satisfying as I feel like it could have been, though I do think it was probably one of my more fun experiences here. And I think when we look at the level as a whole, the grand scheme of this final mission, I do feel like this is a great way to finish Hitman 2. That is my experience with Hitman 2. Again, Hitman 2, minor improvement gameplay-wise from Hitman 1, with most things being on a grander scale, though I didn't find most of the ways they tried to innovate upon the mission structure to be too impressive. I mean, like, I found most of them to be mediocre. I'm trying to find a maelstrom and chasing a ghost. I think that one was probably the best of the bunch, but some of these other ones, like finding clues and escorting the constant, like, those were pretty mediocre in my eyes. But just like the first game, this is another game that I would like to put more time into later down the road, and like to replay these missions and try other approaches. But that is my experience with the Hitman series, and through playing these games, I'm actually really excited to eventually get around to playing Hitman 3. And when I eventually do, I would like to do a mission ranking for the 3 games, like rank every main mission within those 3 games. I think that would be a lot of fun. So that might be something for the future, but for now, that's the video. Thank you for watching.